What is going on, you beautiful, beautiful bastards? This is Unnecessary Rambling, episode 2. I am Brandon Sylvia. Thank you all for joining me here for this solo podcasting endeavor of mine. Thanks for stopping by. Got a big show ahead for you. Got some WWE 2K23 to dive into, some career mode or My Rise mode, I believe is what they're calling it now. So, essentially, story mode, career mode. We'll be talking about that. I played through the male version. I'm about 4 hours into the female version of the career mode. Going to be diving into some Spider-Man Web of Shadows while I had the 360 out and hooked up to play Alpha Protocol. I was going through my collection. I was like, what is here that's not backwards compatible on the Series X? Some stuff that I can dive into while I have this thing hooked up that I have not played in a while, or in this case ever. And Spider-Man Web of Shadows, dove into it for the, I don't know if I may have played this game in the past, but I have zero real memory of the story or the gameplay or anything like that. Like, I was shocked that it was even an open world game. I didn't know that, so I don't think I ever played it in a real meaningful way. So that was nice to dive into and finish that. Not a long game at all, but we'll talk all about that. We have some the monthly look ahead for April to go through the games that are releasing in April, talk about those, and news is pretty light this week. Not a ton on the docket. Got a couple stories that are somewhat interesting. We'll probably quickly breeze through those, and yeah, that's about it for the show. So I hope you were excited. I hope you're ready to go, to tune in, to talk some wrestling, to talk some Spidey. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off with WWE 2K23. All right, so like I said, I have pretty much only played the career modes. That's just all I've been playing, the male and female career modes. I just feel like it's a good way to get reintroduced to the mechanics, get up to speed on everything. It's almost like a tutorial as well, so it just gets you up to speed, caught up quicker. And like I said, finish the male career mode a few hours into the female career mode. And just quick first impressions on WWE 2K23, the gameplay overall, is that it's very, very similar to last year's gameplay, and I don't mind that at all. I think WWE 2K22 was, the foundation was so solid and the core moment-to-moment experience was so good that I would have been a little bit disappointed if they shook that up too much or added in unnecessary features or added in new mechanics that weren't needed. Like, I think that they iterated in a few ways that I think were beneficial and improved the game overall, like the new kick-out system where you just flick the analog stick up, which feels so natural with, you're kicking out, raising your arm, you're flicking the analog stick up. It just feels, it feels involved in the ways that you would want it to, in a more natural, seamless manner. So I really dig that. I think that overall, though, if you enjoyed WWE 2K22, if you enjoyed that gameplay, then you'll be at home here. You'll enjoy the shit out of this one as well. And I just think that after the huge debacle, the huge botch job that was 2K20, and taking that year off for 2K21 and then going into 2K22, I think that was a necessary sort of adjustment period to get the fundamentals down. And because up until 2K22, I think the 2K games have been awful to average, and that's just, I don't think that's acceptable, especially when you're looking back at No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain and SVR 06 and 07, and you just had so many wrestling games that were more than just great wrestling games. They were great video games. And I think we're getting back to a point where we can say that again confidently as wrestling fans, that, okay, yeah, we have games now that are legitimately great video games. And I still think we're not quite there with 2K23, but I would say a legitimately really, really good video game from what I've played so far this year. And I think that last year's was a good, or a solid to good game. But the big thing that I wanted more than anything with 2K23 was, okay, look, 2K22, you nailed the gameplay. The gameplay was so solid. But the modes were a little bit off. And specifically the career mode, the My Rise mode, or whatever the fuck they want to call it. I thought that was not good. And 2K23, they really nailed it. They really nailed it. It's not perfect, but this is absolutely the direction I want to see 2K going in with these games. Long-term storytelling, long-term booking, long-term payoffs, these story arcs that have meaningful characters that evolve over the course of your run with the career mode. By the end of the game, you're connected. You know these characters in a more in-depth manner. They've been building them up, and you're seeing, you have Gabriel Slade for the men's career mode, where he's like this fictionalized character, and they go in depth to flesh him out, to build him up. You have these moments where you're seeing him as a younger version of himself, and he's wearing these orange and white tights, and it looks very amateurish, and he doesn't feel like a formidable sort of threat to the company or to you. And then by the end of the career mode, he's got these slick black trunks with the Slade writing on the back. His finisher's called like the Slade Runner and shit. So it's cool to see his character build up throughout the journey, your character build up throughout the journey, where they have you as your career mode sort of subtitle is the Lock. That's the name of the men's career mode, is the Lock. And you're billed as this dude who pops up on Monday Night Raw, and the announcers are just saying, okay, this dude's a lock. He's an absolute lock to be one of the next great WWE superstars, world champion, like potential through the roof. And you have a little bit of a fall from grace and have to climb your way back up, and you're working some of the smaller shows to get yourself back to where you want to be in the WWE, fighting for world championships and shit like that. And along that path, the decisions that you make sort of formulate and kind of give you. And look, I'm not saying that the decision making here is next level. Like it's, I think that would be probably the next step for 2K24, to have more of these decisions have a bigger payoff and a bigger impact in the overall narrative. Like there's maybe 4 or 5 I can think of in the men's career mode where I was like, yeah, that definitely is worth a replay. And I mean, 4 or 5 inside of a 10-ish hour career mode, I don't think that's, I think that's solid. That's a strong start. Whereas with last year, I felt that the reliance on replying to people on social media and seeing your career evolve over social media, and really the only interaction or choice making being done through text on social media, like that was such a disappointment to me. And now the social media stuff is like a huge afterthought. You can still engage with it, and there's still little subplots that can formulate from social media, but a lot of it's done through, okay, look, we have our weekly programming, our SmackDowns, our Raws, our pay-per-views. A lot of the big moments happen there and backstage, and they're filming this documentary with you as like the rise of the Lock. They have this whole thing pre-built for you where it feels like you have management behind you and wanting you to be this huge hit success, and you're making some decisions as they're filming the documentary, and later in the game making some decisions on which faction you want to align with. Do you want to go with Randy Orton and form this new version of Evolution? Do you want to go with MVP and form a faction with him and Bobby Lashley? And so there's those little decisions that absolutely do have an impact. And in the never mind, I won't spoil that, but let's just say that you build up these alliances, and it's very, very helpful for the end game, for a choice that you make in the end of the game that is really, really cool, and allows you a lot of freedom, like a ton of freedom, with one of the final choices you get to make. I'll just say that to kind of leave it vague and not be too spoilery with it. But yeah, I dug the male career mode quite a lot. There was a dude named Tavish as well, who is like your mentor in the men's career mode. And fucking two thumbs up for the dude who voices Tavish and for whoever wrote that character. Really, really good writing, where he's kind of like, he's got this dryish humor, and he even throws out lines every now and then where I'm like kind of shocked that he said some of the shit that he said, and that they're able to have that much grit or that much bite with the little subplots with him. I was like, okay, cool. So some of the writing with him is really exceeded my expectations. And yeah, and like I said, you still have the agency over the gear that you wear and the entrance that you have and the move set and the picking your finisher and picking your all the different moves that you want to have for your wrestler. But I like that they set you up at the beginning of, okay, you're this character, the Lock, we have this preset entrance for you, this preset gear, and it's leaning into wanting you to be this very specific character that the WWE brass kind of created and they envisioned you as. And then over the course of your career, obviously you take the reins back and sort of figure out who you want to be, and create your own path that way. But I was invested in the story that they told. And like I said, it is a lot of long-term booking that feels consequential towards the end, where you're looking around at these characters and going, okay, cool. Yeah, I've built up a more in-depth relationship with you all, and I have more knowledge of these characters because they've been the focal point of getting me to this final moment, for my comeback journey, if you will. And that's the sort of the main plot there, is it is sort of a rise, fall, and hopefully rise again. But like I was talking about, I do think that there's room for improvement, mainly more than anything in just the amount of choices you get to make that actually do have some consequence, and just add to that replayability. But overall, man, it's a 10-hour or 10 hour or more. If you do all the side shit and do all the different brawls and take all the subplots, you can probably squeeze another 5-6 hours out of the men's career mode. And for a 10-hour solid career mode with great gameplay, good ass long-term story arcs, and yeah, I'm more than satisfied with what was delivered here. Does it have some flaws? Absolutely. Absolutely. Just an overall complaint that I have with the game more than anything is it's just loading screens galore. And you'll see this running, man, every fucking 5-10 minutes. It's just another long ass loading screen after another long ass loading screen. And sports games and these yearly iterations, like, they're usually the last to leave behind the old hardware. Where you look at, I think SmackDown versus Raw 2011 was still on the PlayStation 2, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, they're going to be on old hardware for probably until the end of the generation. You know what I mean? They'll probably ride it out with WWE 2K23 on fucking PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which I think massively restricts this team from pushing the boundaries and innovating in ways that like, even if you look at the animations, the character animations and the backstage cutscenes, and the way that the lip sync is off and the way that their mouths move and the hair, like, it just, I don't think overall this game looks that great in general. And yeah, it's just a bummer that I feel that last generation consoles are a massive detriment to really pushing the boundaries with these yearly sports games and wrestling games and shit like that. But I don't have a ton of actual complaints with the content inside the career mode. I thought it was really strong, really fun. It a weird distinction between the men or the male and female career mode is that I feel that the male career mode is a lot easier. And I don't know if it because I picked just like a tactician, a grappler sort of wrestler with the male and a high flyer with the female, and I don't know if my choice there was made it more difficult in the female path, but with the male superstar, I was just running through everybody, reckless abandon, no problem. Just finishing matches in 2-3 minutes on average. Where with the female superstar, it takes a lot longer to get the victories, and it could just be from less power due to the fact that I picked a lighter weight class and I picked a high flyer opposed to a grappler or to a powerhouse or whatever. But yeah, it takes a whole hell of a lot longer. But yeah, to switch gears here for a second and talk about the female campaign, the 3 or 4 hours that I've played of it so far, I think more invested in this one overall. I like the main setup of the story there. Talking about Gabriel Slade in for the male fictionalized character that you see evolve over the course of the game. With the female version, there is your aunt, and her name is Justine, and she is this fictionalized female superstar who was a legend in the like Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression era. And she is, your aunt trying to teach you the ropes and get you set up to have this run as a iconic female superstar. And a lot of the decisions early on are based upon if you're going to follow in her path or not, honor her legacy, or try to build your own mark and make your own mark in WWE as your own character with your own sort of gimmick and all that shit. Similar to what we talked about with the lock, the WWE management, they want you to for your debut with the female character, they want you to wear your aunt's gear to debut at Survivor Series. And if you do that, they're saying, well, management will be pleased with you. You'll get pushed up the card higher and quicker. And or you can go and go with your own gear that you built and your own gimmick and your own move set and all this. And you pick which direction you want to go. And I picked, I'll honor my aunt's legacy, go out there and see what happens that way. So you come out in her gear, you get this huge pop, and you end up getting injured. And this is like really early on. So I'm curious, like that makes me very interested in a replay where maybe I don't go up to the top rope and try to pull off my aunt's finishing move, and I use my own move set and I become established without trying to attach myself to her legacy. Like that's I'm really curious about the replayability there, and if things do differ at all. Will you end up hurt regardless of what happens there? And also in that career mode, you have another fictionalized character named Ava Marino, who I believe is fictionalized. They talk about her being from NXT and shit like that, but I think that's all in the game universe. I don't think that's real as far as I'm aware. And there's seemingly they're building another long-term story arc with her and a rivalry there. But I recently had to end up in like a tag team situation with Ava, and we're trying to build trust with one another, and she's wanting me to be a little bit dirtier and backstab some people and take shots at people backstage and try to prove that there is this edge to my character and that she's not just this privileged, sort of nepotistic, that she's not just climbing the ranks of nepotism to become a world champion, that she'll actually put in the hard work and grind and do some, maybe be a little bit dirtier, a little bit heelish when it's called for to get the job done. And I like that shit. I like where they're going with that, and I hope it does culminate in a big like WrestleMania blow off. Or also, there's an interesting thing going on behind the scenes where the aunt, she has this podcast called Ruthless Digressions, I believe. Ruthless Digressions, whatever. And she is constantly talking about how she has interest in reappearing in WWE, or coming back if she can get cleared from this injury that took her out of competition. And she wants to, she constantly talks about having that hunger for more, and wanting to be in the spotlight and back on the scene again. And I'm curious how they're going to build up that arc, because like I said, I'm kind of building my trust up a little bit more with the writing team over there. Like I see these stories starting to percolate, and I'm going, oh, I think that there's going to be some kind of payoff here. Like maybe WrestleMania, it's the aunt versus the niece in a big match for the women's championship. Like, I don't know, man. There's some sick shit there that I think they could end up doing with this story. Obviously, I feel like Ava will end up crossing my character, and there will be a SummerSlam or a fucking, even a Survivor Series, kind of the do the whole full circle there and compete against Ava for a championship at Survivor Series, then go on, defend it against the aunt at WrestleMania. Like, there's some cool things that I could see being on the horizon here with this story. And yeah, and like I said, when the gameplay is just so solid, it makes it all the better. It makes it that much more enjoyable just to sit back and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go and fucking enter this TLC match, or enter this Money in the Bank match. And you're just having fun. 10-15 minutes go by of a match, and it feels like no time at all, because you're sitting there actually like actively enjoying the moment to moment gameplay. So yeah, I am really, really digging this career mode a lot. Like I said, do I have complaints with it? Absolutely yes. But my big thing with wrestling in general, and wrestling video games specifically, is that the story is why we're here. If people, well, I guess I should just say for me, I can't speak for everybody. The story is why I'm there for wrestling. If I wanted to sit back and watch, like, this competitive sport, then I would watch MMA, or I would watch collegiate wrestling or Olympic wrestling. Like, the thing that makes WWE and this style of entertainment wrestling so fun to me are the stories, are the moments, and the cinematic storytelling here is much, much better than last year. And having those moments, which I do think, in terms of the big moments, the Angle in the milk truck, the Austin just, as the fucking sheriff riding around on the four-wheeler, or like or DX the invasion angle, like there's not, at least from the male career mode that I've finished, there was nothing in there that was super stand out on that level. But it was enough of, from moment to moment, we're building up this story, we're building up these long-term arcs. And yeah, it might not be like the most memorable story. I don't think I'll be sitting by the end of the year thinking about, damn, that was a real cool moment in the career mode for 2K23. But it was a good time to watch these stories evolve and have payoffs that felt satisfying enough to me. So yeah, I did enjoy it, and I'm glad that they do have, cinematics and shit like that incorporated a lot more into the game. So yeah, man. Like I talked about, the loading screens and the just consistency, just nonstop loading screens, and the animations being pretty rough. Those are like my two real big complaints. But yeah, a lot of positives there. A lot of positive takeaways from this year's career mode. And that I gotta say, I'm really surprised by that. I'm really surprised by that. I thought that, getting back into the yearly iterations and to the yearly rollouts of these games, I was worried, undoubtedly, that we were going to get back into this cycle of, same old, same old. And I do think that obviously there's a huge benefit of a biannual release cadence, but I don't know. I'll say for this year, we'll see what happens next year. But I think my trust, my faith is a little bit restored here. I think they made the proper improvements for the career mode. And if they use this as the foundation going forward, I think there's a lot of good shit to come. Next week, obviously, we'll talk about. I'll finish up the female career mode. I'll give you my full thoughts on that. GM mode, I'll dive into a little bit. Maybe a little bit of showcase mode. Probably just finishing the female career mode and diving into maybe a season or two with the GM mode, because Resident Evil 4, that will be on next week's show as well. So we'll be diving deep into that. But yeah, that is my long-winded thoughts here on the career mode for WWE 2K23. So yeah, definitely thumbs up. Really solid. Much better. Like last year's, I would say that the career mode's a 6, a 5.5, 6 out of 10. This year it's like a solid 7.5 to 8 range. It's much better. All right, and next up, let's talk about Spider-Man Web of Shadows. And we won't go too long here on this one, but this was like I said, I wanted to play it to really see what this game was all about. I enjoy Edge of Time, and like there's some weird Spider-Man 7th gen titles that I kind of dig a little bit. And I wanted to pop this one in because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Wolverine is either on the front or the back of the game. And I was like, let me see what the hell they got Wolverine doing in here. And the thing I really enjoyed about Spider-Man Web of Shadows is it felt a lot like those PS1 Spider-Man games where you were constantly being hit with a new boss battle. And like, there was really no stories that were evolving or pertaining to these bosses and in any real meaningful context, but they were just popping up on screen nonstop. Every 30 minutes you're in a new big ass boss fight with these iconic villains, and it was cool to feel that campiness and cheesiness from even like the 5th generation kind of make its way over into Web of Shadows, where nothing really felt like it mattered all that much, and none of the characters were well written at all, and the voice acting wasn't good at all. And there was like really very few big cutscenes or big moments to kind of get you hooked in. It was just all about having a silly ass Spider-Man open world adventure. And I was into it. It was only 7-ish, 8-ish hours or so, but I finished it real easy, simple game to get through. There's a couple boss fights that were a little bit more challenging than others, but yeah, the cool like kind of hook here with Web of Shadows was that you get to pick between like going the symbiote sort of evil route, or sticking to like the traditional red and blue Spider-Man, the good guy making the good choices. So there's always like a evil path or a good path to pick in these different battles. You can like, I ended up picking the good path throughout the whole thing, but I'm guessing in some of it you could like kill certain characters or something if you picked the evil path, and in the good path you try to rescue them, or you have like Black Cat where you could save her if you pick the good suit or the good side. And just those little moments are obviously inconsequential to the overall story, I feel, but it was nice, being Spider-Man, picking between my little different options in the big moments, and then having a kind of a beat 'em up romp when I'm on the ground, and an open world adventure to swing around. The swinging's actually not horrible in this game. It's not on the level of Insomniac Spider-Man. Obviously, it's definitely framey, and it's dropping frames quite consistently in Web of Shadows, but it it was enjoyable and like intuitive enough where you press like RB or LB when you are, like, say you run into a building while you're swinging, you can press LB and Spider-Man will start sprinting up the building. You jump back off it, you're back into your swing animation. And it's just like the traditional style of swinging where you're just holding RT, and then you hold down A longer as you're swinging, and you'll speed up your swing and shit. But one of the cooler mechanics for Web of Shadows is this: you're pressing triangle, and it will like shoot a web at an enemy and attach to them, and you'll zip towards them, and then you can like press Y again, and you'll like jump over the enemy, do a little bit of damage to them, and you keep pressing it Y, and then as soon as you're about to connect with the enemy, Y again, you'll jump over them, do a little bit of damage. And you can do this in, like, you'll be in areas at certain points of the game where you're fighting flying enemies who you can't, obviously you can't just stand on the ground and do damage to with your ground attacks. So you're doing this, pressing Y and then Y again. And then over the course of the game, you get to upgrade that skill set, and you go from pressing Y and Y to pressing Y and X, and you do like this crazy fucking kickflip thing, and it does extra damage. You press Y and B, and then whenever you get right up on them, you end up grabbing the enemy and just swinging them, throwing them like fucking throwing them miles away, and it does extra damage to them that way. So it's just like those little mechanics that were actually really fun. And you have a special ability where I believe it's RB and Y, or RB and A, where you get to pull. No, it's all of the buttons: RB, Y, B, A, and X. And the different special moves can unlock the ability to, like, you web tie everybody up in this vicinity, and by pressing RB and B, and you got everybody all tied up. It gives yourself a moment to catch your breath and regroup. And yeah, man, it's the gameplay for Web of Shadows was actually pretty damn fun. And when you're doing those special moves, you have to have like your special meter built all the way up. And another thing that you can do when you have your special meter built all the way up is bring out someone who is your ally. So over the course of the game, like I said, if you choose in a boss fight with, let's just say, I guess spoilers for a fucking game that came out in 2008 or whatever, but Wolverine, you get into a boss fight with Wolverine, and if things go your way, he will become your ally. And in combat, you can hold down and Wolverine will come to your aid. So you can be fighting alongside Wolverine in these big blowout moments or boss fights or just standard enemy encounters. And yeah, it's pretty fun. It's campy, it's silly, but it's fairly enjoyable. The only two things I really dislike about the game are, well, for one, it was way buggy towards the end of my experience, where I had to like restart the console a couple times because Spider-Man would just get stuck in an animation where like he couldn't move. And one time I got stuck to where I could move my character, but I couldn't do any sort of combat or swinging or jumping or anything. Like, I could just walk around, but he wouldn't actually like engage in combat or anything. So there was a lot of like really weird bugs. And like I talked about, the frame rate was really choppy towards the end of the game, or just whenever you're swinging at like high speeds, it was really, really choppy. And the other than that, though, just a game design thing that was so popular at this time was the QTEs, and this game is QTE just it's full of goddamn QTEs. There are so many quick time events in this game that it's annoying playing it in 2023. At the time, I'm sure nobody really cared all that much. I feel like this was probably a little bit before QTEs were super hated by the community. So I looking back at it in retrospect, it is what it is, but it's not the most enjoyable way to, like, I would just prefer a cutscene. You know what I mean? Like, in a big moment like that, after you finish a boss fight, I would just prefer to see what happens in a cutscene, which thankfully we've kind of went that direction with, just taking out QTs in general. But, it's just frustrating. You finish this big boss fight and then you put the controller down for a second, and then 2 seconds later you're having to press X at the right time or press B at the right time. It's just like, yeah, that's not what you that's not what you really want, or that's not, it just doesn't feel as natural, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, when you finish a big moment in the gameplay, there's just like this natural instinct that there's going to be a moment of pause where you can kind of recollect yourself before you get back hands on with the controller. So I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but yeah, that's just my reasoning for not really enjoying QTs. Like, I would just rather see that shit pop up in a cutscene. But yeah, it's pretty damn solid. The Wolverine voice actor is really, really good. Most of the other voice actors, or at least the way it was portrayed in this game was a bit campy, but it worked for the game and for the tone that the game was going for overall. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say about Spider-Man Web of Shadows, but I did enjoy my time with it. I thought it was fairly fun enough. I liked the upgrade trees. I really liked that at the beginning of the game, they get a lot of the tutorials just out of the way in like one fell swoop. They introduce it as like a story where Luke Cage is kind of training you about all these different moves and how to become the best version of Spider-Man. And then, he's training you. And so I liked that immediate tutorialization and getting that out of the way, but kind of introducing you to everything that you can do immediately, and then just throwing you into the game world and not really giving you any sort of tips or pop-ups or anything that would intrude and block you off from just engaging in the moment-to-moment play. So yeah, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. I would say, I think it's unfortunately gone up in price tremendously. Like, when I bought this thing, it was fucking, I don't even know, $10-15 if that. And now, I think it's gone up quite a bit. I don't know what the price is. I know Edge of Time for and this is when I was looking, it was PlayStation 3 prices, but I remember that they had really started to rise up there. So I don't know. If you could get it for $20, I would say it's definitely worth checking out for $20. If it's, in the $50, $60, $70 range, it's not that great. I wouldn't recommend spending $70 on a 7-hour Web of Shadows, but I had fun with it. All right, so that is what I have been playing in the last week or so. And now how about we skip over to the monthly look ahead, talk about the games that are coming out in April that I have my eye on, and some other notable releases as well. And we got to go to April 19th for the first game that I think I'm going to check out, and that is Horizon Burning Shores, the Horizon Forbidden West DLC, PlayStation 5 only, next gen only, Horizon without the restrictions of last generation. I'm really excited for this. My game of the year of 2022, and just, seeing LA and the flying mount from the start of the game. Like I'm really absolutely sold on this. I was reading on Twitter that they have like some humongous boss fights for Burning Shores that they wouldn't have been able to do supposedly on the Forbidden West because of the PlayStation 4 restrictions. So I'm down, man. I'm really, really excited to check out Horizon Burning Shores on the 19th of April. April 21st, Dead Island 2, available on all platforms except Switch. And this looks surprisingly good. I wasn't sold on this at all until I saw this like raw look at gameplay, and I'll put it in here so you guys can see it. And it was just so goddamn visceral, so gory, and just watching your character melee attack these zombies and knocking the flesh off their bones. It was just, I was like, man, I did not know that they were going this route. Like I had no idea that this game was going to be this goddamn gory. And yeah, just like detailed limb dismemberment. There's some stuff here that this actually has my attention. I was reading that it's only going to be about 20 hours. And so that's kind of the perfect runtime for a game like this. I think it has a couple different open world locations that you can traverse between. But yeah, that's perfect for me for a campy 20-hour, very brutal, very melee centric zombie slaughtering fest. Yeah, absolutely down for this. And I just kind of like the aesthetic and the art style here. So I might check out Dead Island 2. We'll see if it ends up reviewing just horribly, then I'll pass. But I don't know, man. I'm thinking that I might jump into some damn Dead Island 2. I know it went through so much, just the trials and tribulations, the development hell, exchanging, I believe, 3 different developers over the course of its development. I know with Techland, the original developers, the people who made Dying Light, and once they made Dying Light, they kind of found their cash cow and then rode that into a sequel, which you can obviously see the evolution there from Dead Island to Dying Light, where when you get to Dying Light 2, it's just so much more involved, and I really actually enjoyed the shit out of Dying Light 2. But yeah, I think that this new focus here for Dead Island 2 of just going full in on like utilizing next gen technology to just knock the fucking flesh off of these zombies, like, hell yeah, dude. I'm totally I'm very much excited. I'm excited just to see the reception to this game, to see if it actually can deliver in any real way. So Dead Island 2, April 21st, April 27th, Bramble the Mountain King, available on all platforms. And this looks very Little Nightmares Inside inspired. Little character in a big world with your puzzle solving and platforming with a exploration kind of focus to the gameplay. It looks really creepy. It has, there's an enemy design that harkens back to the Ring in a way, with the long black hair and the very pale sort of skin. And that is that, yeah, that's the Ring, right? Not the one where the lady hops out the damn TV. I think that's the Ring. I'm not the biggest horror aficionado of the movie space, but I believe the Ring is the one where the chick hops out the damn TV. And then they did the parody of it. Was that Scary Movie 2 where they did the parody and the lady sitting there on the couch and ends up beating the shit out of the Ring lady who hops out of the TV? Those movies are kind of underrated. Those scary movies are kind of underrated. The first one in specific was really fucking funny. That was a funny ass movie. with the Wayans brothers and all that shit. I think they ended up getting fucked out of that license for Scary Movie. I don't, because I remember they whenever the Wayans brothers were like writing them and all that, they were really funny. And then something happened and the casting all got switched around, and I think that I don't remember exactly what happened, but they got a whole lot less funny. But like the first two or three were the first one was great. The first two or three were solid, but the first one, Scary Movie 1, is really, really funny. I loved that damn movie when I was a kid, but I don't know how we got. Oh yeah, the character in Bramble the Mountain King looks very this enemy looks very Ring-ish. The girl from the Ring, and she's chasing you in Bramble the Mountain King. Like it almost looks like she's leaving this swampy location and just slinking her long grotesque body towards you as you're running away. And there's a lot of like swampy locations in this Bramble the Mountain King trailer. That's yeah. I'm curious about this. Unfortunately, the physical copy releases like 3 months after the digital. And also Dredge, man. Dredge is a game I'm really, really looking forward to. And just the benefit of making this a longer podcast thing here, I can just kind of go off on these little random tangents. But Dredge was coming, I believe it just released actually. And it was going to get a physical release, I think on the 28th. And I was like, okay, hell yeah. I'll just pick up, the physical. I'll wait a few days, pick up the physical on March 28th. But the physical ended up getting delayed until April 30th. I just got my notification from Best Buy on that. And so it's like, shit, I got to wait another month. And people are out there praising the game. It looks so distinct, this horror fishing game. I'm fucking absolutely down to play this weird, unique idea. It looks so cool. So shout out to Dredge, shout out to Bramble the Mountain King. I'm loving these developers, these independent developers, wanting to make games in the horror space, but having unique ideas and unique setups for how they're going to go about doing that. I love that, man. So shout out to the independent horror developers out there. For a while, it was just nothing but first person walking sim horror games. And now it's really starting to evolve and we're getting a lot of variety. So for sure, down for that. And kind of right there relating to that, on April 27th, we have The Last Case of Benedict Fox. And this is going to be available on Xbox current gen consoles and PC. And this is a Metroidvania 2D side scroller, just a really, really awesome art style with emphasis on kind of some detective elements and puzzle solving with upgrading and shit. Just looks really, really sick. And it's coming to Game Pass day one. But the reason I bring up the horror is like, this is, you feel the undertones of horror when you're looking at this game. You see the undertones of horror being represented very, very emphatically. And that's the thing that I love so much about horror, is how it can relate and show itself in different genres. And it doesn't have to be the main focal point, but it can be available for use in almost any genre of game. You even saw it in like Batman Arkham Asylum, where it creeps its head in there, and in Hogwarts Legacy, with the Haunting of Hogsmeade quest and all that. Like, horror can be utilized in such an efficient, cool way, and I love seeing developers not shy away from using it. So, hell yeah. The Last Case of Benedict Fox, Game Pass, day one, April 27th. And last, but certainly not least, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Probably my second most anticipated game, right behind Starfield. And this bad boy is coming to current gen consoles and PC only. And I'm just so down for this. The trailer looks so good. It looks so good. The only a few things that I really want from this game that I want to be different. I want a better map, obviously, which I do think they are addressing. I want less of the Souls focus with the less methodical kind of hacking and slashing and more of the fluidity and the elusiveness that you get from like the Jedi Knight Jedi Academy games and Jedi Knight Jedi Outcast. Like, I think those games really have the perfect lightsaber combat, and I just hope that we get something more along the lines of that with Jedi Survivor. And I think the thing too with Jedi Survivor is they're giving you more variety with how you choose to go about combat, different stances, different, you want to dual wield your lightsabers, you want to go in with the long saber, you get more variety of lightsabers. So that alone kind of lends me to believe that it may be, just giving you the option of having a less methodical, more fast paced sort of combat that feels less like you're using an axe and more like you're using, a real lightsaber. And yeah, I'm just so down. I'm so down, man. With the, you saw the action figure of Cal Kestis with the little pistol on his hip. We saw he's out there in the trailer riding around on his little what the fuck animal? A horse? Cal Kestis is out there riding around on a damn horse out in the open world for Jedi Survivor, just chilling, riding around on his horse, blasting people with his pistol. I don't think that there's horses in Star Wars, but whatever the fuck animal Cal Kestis is out there riding around on. You get some rideable mounts to explore more with. The worlds are seemingly a lot more open, which once again, hopefully the map is benefiting that, and the map is of great assistance there to limit the backtracking and just help your navigation in general. And that's really the only complaint I had with the first game, the Souls focus and the lackluster maps. So if that can kind of get addressed, there's not a lot. I mean, I guess more clothing options would be great. Not that I really cared a lot in general, but yeah, I think just more customization in general is always a good thing. And it does seem that with the stances and with the different lightsabers, and it seems that they are giving you a lot more variety and freedom to customize Cal Kestis to your liking. And I just want to see where that story goes. It ended with a little glimmer of hope in a pretty bleak overall world with the kind of last remnants of the Jedi, and it seems that Cal Kestis is led down a darker path. He looks more disheveled and grungy and like with the beard and all that. So I'm just curious what happened to Cal in that time, or what we're going to see happen to Cal when we get our hands on it. So cannot wait to check this out. Also with the limb dismemberment, dude, yes, sign me the fuck up. April 28th, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Cannot wait. And next, we have a few other releases that I'm not, super hyped on, but definitely worth mentioning. On April 11th, we have Tron Identity coming to Switch only, seemingly. And this is like, it has a Detroit Become Human energy to it with the branching dialogues. And this is it's being developed by Mike Bithel's team, who made John Wick Hex and a few other titles. And yeah, I don't know anything about Tron at all, but this looks kind of cool. I'm a sucker for branching narratives. I love branching narratives in games. And yeah, it has a sort of visual novel sort of aesthetic to it, and with a lot of emphasis on decision making. So it's only coming to Switch now, so I probably won't be picking it up, but if it does come to PS5 or Xbox, I'll check it out there at some point. If it, ends up reviewing well, or if it ends up being something worth playing, I'll probably end up checking it out. April 14th, Mega Man Battle Network coming to PS4, Switch, and PC. And yeah, it's like fucking 10 Mega Man games coming to PS4, Switch, and PC. April 18th, Minecraft Legends on all platforms. And last up, we have Advance Wars 1 and 2, the reboot coming to the Switch on April 21st, 2023. So some good stuff for April for sure. I would say for me personally, ranking my anticipation here, I would go with Jedi Survivor, my most anticipated. Second most would be Burning Shores. Third would be Dead Island 2. And fourth would probably be Last Case of Benedict Fox. And then fifth, Bramble the Mountain King. So got some good shit lined up for April. And yeah, let me know down in the comments below what your most anticipated game releasing in April will be. Hey guys, I'm hopping in here real quick from the future. I noticed a lot of popping sounds and like kind of rattling sounds while I was editing the podcast. And I think it was because I didn't have this little screw here tightened all the way. I hope that remedies the problem there, but I started noticing it while I was editing, and then it got really bad towards the end while we were discussing the news part. So I figured I would just delete that segment of the show, re-record it, and hopefully with this tightened, it won't be making all the rattling noise. I think whenever I moved the microphone, it would just kind of rattle because it was loose. So hopefully that is, you know, a nice simple fix. If not, I will get that addressed by next week. But yeah, let's go ahead and a very light news week. So not a ton to really dive into here, but I do want to quickly hit these stories, talk about some of the interesting news bits that I found over the course of the last week. And yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is the March PlayStation Plus game collection, new additions here. And also want to give a shout out with Legend of Dragoon and Horizon Forbidden West. I believe those were the two big additions for last month. PlayStation Plus kind of turning it around a little bit, you know, and I've been very critical of this service and the necessity or why it exists at all, especially the premium catalog. I found the premium catalog to be awful. I think the PlayStation Plus Extra is pretty solid and has been consistently pretty good, but March's PlayStation Plus catalog is fucking great, man. I'm gonna rattle off the games that you can expect for premium and extra here. We got Uncharted, Legacy of Thieves Collection, Chia, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, Ghostwire Tokyo, Life is Strange True Colors, Immortals Phoenix Rising, Life is Strange 2, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Street Fighter V Champion Edition, Untitled Goose Game, Final Fantasy Type 0 HD, Rage 2, Neo The World Ends With You, and Haven. Those are for your extra catalog, the medium tier. And then for the premium tier, you got Ridge Racer Type 4, Ape Academy 2, Siphon Filter, Dark Mirror. So not bad at all. And especially with Chia launching day and date, you know, I think that's kind of been the main comparison there, with Xbox constantly going out and Microsoft, you know, acquiring those day one gets for Game Pass for the indie titles. And I've been hoping that PlayStation would do the same. You know, you saw with Stray last year, and then more of a double A title with fucking what's the name? Shadow Warrior 3. And then also with Rollerdrome, you know, so three games that I found to be really solid. And I'm hoping that this is kind of the trend continuing here with Chia, and I hope we can get some more stuff like this down the line. But Chia looks fucking excellent, man. This open world, Breath of the Wild inspired title. I was listening to an interview with the game's director on MinMax's YouTube channel, and he was talking about how he found a lot of inspiration from Grand Theft Auto. And it's funny if you think about the game, like Chia, a lot of the kind of main objective seems to be that you're possessing these different items and animals and objects on this beautiful island. And it's funny to think about, you know, stealing cars in Grand Theft Auto and the comparison there to stealing bodies and stealing different forms and stealing different, you know, becoming different objects in this world. It is kind of a a similar thing there. That might be a bit of a reach, but I kind of can see how the inspiration may have started with just being able to steal cars and go around wherever the fuck you want and do whatever the hell you want to do. Like, I don't know. I'm really interested in this Chia game, but yeah, really, really fucking strong lineup here for PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. This month, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, you're getting 30 hours of content right there, ready to go on your feed for whatever $14. Ghostwire Tokyo, I think that's an underrated title with a really, really good story. Immortals Phoenix Rising, you kind of have Chia and Immortals Phoenix Rising competing for your open world Breath of the Wild inspired title. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, a dream game for the kid version of me. I loved Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. And then, with the premium, the classic titles, I think Ridge Racer Type 4 for PlayStation 1, Ape Academy 2 for PSP, and Siphon Filter Dark Mirror for PSP, like, that's good shit. That's really solid. So not too shabby there for PlayStation Plus for March. I hope to see a lot more like this, because I've been really disappointed with the premium offerings and really disappointed with the day one offerings. So I'm hoping that this trend will continue. 2 really good months in a row, and I'm hoping for more solid shit like that in the future. System Shock Remake is getting a release date for May 30th for PC. No information on the console release date at this time, so that's a bummer, but whenever the console version comes out, I will definitely be checking out some System Shock Remake. I know it was supposed to launch in March, I believe, System Shock initially, so a little bit of a delay there. May 30th for PC at this time. So we'll see when we get that console release date information. Hogwarts Legacy has already sold more copies in the UK than Elden Ring. I got this information from VGC, and 5 weeks. Hogwarts Legacy has been on the market for 5 weeks with no last gen version. The last gen versions just got delayed. They still haven't released. And this thing has sold more copies than Elden Ring in 5 weeks in the UK. I mean, this is legitimately going to be up there with your Call of Duties, your NBA 2Ks, your FIFAs. Like, what an achievement for single player games. And I think it's just such a great testament and proof that quality does sell, and you don't have to make these Suicide Squad-esque live service forever living games, Fortnite-inspired titles, Destiny-inspired titles to make a lot of fucking money in this industry. Quality still sells. And, single-player games, unless you're developed by Rockstar, numbers like this are... And I mean, hell, GTA 5 had multiplayer components. Red Dead Redemption 2 had multiplayer components. So, like... right now, Hogwarts Legacy is kind of in a league of its own, and shout out to Avalanche, a team that I definitely doubted, did not give them the credit they deserved, and they proved my ass wrong. Huge hit here. I really hope that they can take this and maybe spawn this off into like a Justice League game if they're still working alongside WB. They have like all the makings there with their flying systems in Hogwarts Legacy. You can kind of transition that into some Superman shit. Even like the time trials that you see in Hogwarts Legacy are reminiscent of Superman 64 and just a more polished, fun version. You have some, I would imagine, developing for an Aquaman character, or especially a Flash character, could pose some challenges for just moment-to-moment gameplay. But Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, I think they could pull those 3 off pretty well with just thinking about the different abilities that you have in Hogwarts Legacy and the different types of combat you can pull off with your wand. Like, I think they would have it in them to crank out a Justice League game. And you got to imagine that it would be nice for them to get away from the J.K. Rowling controversy for their next title to go on to something new. And I think that they could have this same type of success with something new. But when you're looking at a game that likely by the end of the year will have sold 30 million copies or so, yeah, I could see a sequel coming soon for Hogwarts Legacy. So we shall see. But I really do hope that we can get a Justice League game from that team. And it'd be crazy to think that, you know, after all the Marvel mania and all the Marvel hype, and we get that Avengers game from Crystal Dynamics, and it's really not what anybody wants. It'd be wild to see the much less hyped superhero team get a much better video game spun out of it. So we'll see, man. I think a Justice League game by Avalanche would be excellent. Also, speaking in the world of DC films, we have Zack Snyder with a new film called Rebel Moon that is being adapted into a humongous RPG. And this is according to VGC as well. I read this article on VGC. And I'll clip the trailer in for a couple clips of the trailer in here for you guys to see it. And, you know, at first, like, this movie hasn't come out yet, so I'm looking at it skeptically going, well, you know, what? Who knows? This thing might perform horribly at the box office, might see nothing of it, da-da-da-da-da. But, like, when you look at the trailer here, the clips here, like, this looks like a video game-ass movie. Like, you're seeing these space dogfights going down. You got kind of a Blade Runner energy tied to a Star Wars energy tied to, like, a Mad Max almost Western style energy. You see this dude like popping open the doors to some saloon. Has a lot of different sort of styles going on. And I think this might actually be really fun to play in this huge ass RPG sandbox, maybe creating your own character, picking a class type. Do I want to be this space fucking Star Wars type dude? Do I want to be this Western, like kind of creating your background in your class? Like, if it's going to be that level of RPG with backgrounds and statistics and all that shit, like, I think that could be kind of cool. Obviously, we still have to see if the movie comes out and performs well, but I think the trailer looks fairly fucking interesting. And latest thing that I wanted to talk about here is that Control has passed 3 million copies sold, and I read this on xputer.com. This is I think this is a solid success here. It talks about in the article that the game had a budget of less than $30 million. So they made a fairly healthy profit off of Control. And it goes on to say Control 2 will have a $50 million budget, so still much, much smaller than the majority of AAA titles, but, you know, significantly larger than the first game. So really interested to see Control 2 running probably on next-gen only consoles. At least I would definitely hope it's going to be on next-gen only consoles, and having a significant increase, almost double the budget for Control 2. Yeah, I think that's good news around the board. They also have a spin-off project called Project Condor that is also in development. It's a multiplayer game based on Control. And then, you know, of course, they have Alan Wake 2 in the cooker, the remake of Max Payne 1 and 2. So Remedy has their plate full with video game related shit for the next 6-7 years. I think they're going to be a very, very busy studio over there. So shit, yeah, man. Shout out to Remedy, one of my favorite developers on the block. And I guess we'll transition to our final news story, which is a bit of a bummer. I probably should have put this news story at the top and closed with something a little bit more positive here, but RIP to Lance Reddick, man. 60 years old, passed away. I just played Quantum Break. Speaking of Remedy games, just played Quantum Break, and he was a big part of that game and delivered an excellent performance there, delivered an excellent performance in Horizon, even the Resident Evil TV show, you know, a TV show that he was like the one big bright spot of that show, that season. He had a really great performance as Wesker. And yeah, it's just super, super unfortunate. It's cool that, you know, he has left his mark in the video game space as well as obviously the film and television space. But with Destiny and Horizon and Quantum Break and Resident Evil, like, you know, it's cool that he'll be remembered forever in this medium, but far too soon. You know, far, far too soon. 60 years old. Such a just incredible, incredible talent. And yeah, that is an absolute bummer, but definitely wanted to, you know, pay respects to someone that anytime he popped up in anything I was watching or playing, I was always happy to see him there because I knew the performance was going to be excellent. And yeah, so fucking sucks for sure. RIP to Lance Reddick. But that's the news for the week, guys. Appreciate you all for tuning in. And yeah, episode 3 got a big one coming for you, ready to go next week. Resident Evil 4, finishing up with WWE 2K23. And hopefully I'll have a little bit of time to play some Chia. We'll talk about that as well. And then the monthly ranking will be the week after next. So stay tuned. A lot of good stuff coming to your podcast feeds and to your YouTube subscription boxes. So stay subscribed and, you know, like the show if you enjoy it and all that good stuff to kick it out into the algorithm for me. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. See you in the next video. Goodbye.